Hey everybody, it's Ryan, and we're in week 4. So we've got 2 more weeks to go. Hopefully this class has been helpful for you. It's an accelerated course, and so I know there's a lot of information that I'm asking you to take responsibility for, but that's kind of the framework that we're working out of. So specifically with regard to week 4, the overarching theme that we're going to be dealing with is reaching every man, woman, and child, and specifically the integration of newcomers into the faith. This is where we get into kind of like a mobilizing arm. And I know that, for some of you, especially if you're in faith-based MPOs, you might be thinking like, well, how exactly does this relate to me? Well, I tell you, the mobilization of everyday people, it applies to every domain of leadership that you're in. And so if someone is new to the faith or someone is marginal in their faith and they're taking a next step, as you're orchestrating and mobilizing the volunteer effort of people in your context, this is no small feat. It's no small duty that we have as leaders. Now, I'm going to take some time to focus on the aspect of multiplication, which comes to us from the Christ Together videos and Field Guide sessions 7 and 8. Okay, so I'm going to focus on that in a second. But again, I want you to exercise the framework that we're dealing with in this course. Prepare, understand, develop, and turn in. Okay, so specifically, I want to prepare you to prepare yourself. Think about the concept of reaching every man, woman, child, and integrating newcomers to the faith. Prepare yourself by thinking about the things that you already do in that process. Now, it could be scary. You might say, well, I have no idea what to do because I've never really thought through that lens. Well, if you're in that spot, just begin to prepare your mind to say, well, what exactly do I need to do? But for those of you who do think about this, what is your discipleship platform? What is your entree of mobilizing new believers? What is your responsibility to educate new believers in the faith so that they can be mobilized, not empty shells, but mobilized people that take the Spirit with them into their geography, and they help you to accomplish the goal of the saturation of the gospel, whereby we can actually reach every man, woman, and child with the gospel. And we don't know who's going to come to saving faith in Jesus Christ. The Spirit controls that. But the reality is we have a very clear call on our lives to fulfill the Great Commission, and that's found in all 3 synoptic Gospels. It's found in the Gospel of John, and it's also found in the book of Acts. And so we're not off the hook with that. We have a responsibility for that. Now, I want you to prepare yourself. Think about the things that you've already known with regard to the mobilization of people and reaching every man, woman, and child. Reflect upon the things that you've already done in this area. Let some ideas set up or surface in your mind of things that you've already been attempting to do. Maybe they've been successful, maybe they haven't, but think about those things. Jot those notes down. In addition to that, I want you to understand, I want you to be aware of the new ideas that are coming into play in this reading. So specifically, the thing I think about is multiplication within the Christ Together resources. So I'm a part of this organization nationally, and I try to work this out regionally, but most people that I know, they don't employ a multiplication mindset with the mobilization of people. And so at best, they're thinking about adding people, the process of expanding through addition, but they're not really thinking about a multiplicative effort whereby thousands of people mobilize to reach tens of people and saturation is actually accomplished. The Christ Together material has some really good stuff for you to be thinking about there as leaders in local churches. And I think a big part of that is they embrace a mentality that in order to reach every man, woman, and child, it's going to take every man, woman, and child. Now, this is very personal to me because I work at a very large regionally positioned church. And if our strategy was just to say, well, we're going to put a big speaker up there with a golden tongue and we're just going to trust that he's going to advance the gospel and everybody's just going to come and listen to the preacher speak. Now, that sounds silly, but the methodology is there for a lot of people, a lot of churches. And unfortunately, there are some people within our church that think that way. And so our responsibility is to help people understand that, yes, we are a part of a large church, but the reality is that if our everyday people don't reach into the everyday lostness of the geography of Western New York, we're in real trouble. We will not make a dent in the saturation of the gospel in our region. And I happen to know this because I collect the data on this. And so you're going to see in the Christ Together field guide, you're going to see that we're going to talk about the actual assessment of people. And when we're going to look at ways that you can gauge their spiritual formation, you can also gauge their missional engagement. And at this point in time, we've surveyed over 40,000 evangelicals, and unfortunately the data for every church in America is incredibly sobering as it relates to mobilization and the integration of newcomers into the faith and moving them out into the lostness of a geography. We got a real discipleship crisis on our hands. So I want you to understand those new things that are coming into mind. The next thing is I want you to develop. I want you to start taking these ideas and saying, how can I use these to better position the organization I'm responsible for leadership in? You need to start taking these ideas, not just learning about them, but you need to start taking them and say to yourself, what is my responsibility to employ this into the organization that I've been entrusted to lead? And then lastly, I need you to turn in something. Now this week, I need you to turn in a 1,000-word description of the top strategic priorities of your ministry setting relative toward establishing a commitment of multiplication. I want to see that there's something in your mind working toward not addition, but actually the multiplicative effort of mobilizing people for the gospel. Now, I want you to give a detailed understanding of how the organization has arrived at this conclusion, and I need you to provide me as the reader with an understanding of how these strategic priorities toward multiplication are being acted upon. Now, they may not necessarily be acted upon in the present, but you got to give me a pathway. You got to help me to understand how you're actually going to action this. If none of these exist today, document that and provide me with an understanding of what you think would be important for the organization in this particular area of emphasis. I need about 5 pages double spaced. That's going to be submitted electronically. Okay, now this is going to be due by Sunday of week 4. Okay, so you have till the end of this week by midnight to do that. But I need you to really think about how exactly am I going to do that. Draw from Wright, draw from Smith, draw from the Christ Together materials. Footnote the things that aren't yours. If you're drawing from an idea, cite it out. When in doubt, cite it out. Any questions, any thoughts, or any concerns that you have for me, rkozey@thechapel.com. That's rkozey@thechapel.com. God bless you, gang.